Well, guys, the boys are back. It's been around like 4 weeks, I think, but we want to get back into it. We want to get on that grind again. And yeah, we're gonna start posting probably once, twice a week. We're gonna try if we're not busy.
I kind of want to bring up something that happened at the gym today.
Oh yeah, please.
So there was someone in the backs, or yeah. So at our gym, there's a back corner area. There's a bunch of squat racks and stuff. So someone was doing something back there, and they screamed really loudly. That like the gym was kind of silent. Yeah, it was just really loud. Like we've been there for like 3 or 4 years, and I've never heard anyone scream that loud. It was kind of funny, but I
Yeah,
don't
can
know.
I just give my POV for a little bit or for a second?
Yeah,
So basically, I was doing the calf raises, right? And that's faces all the squat racks in the back. And I was on probably like my third set and I was just sitting there, right? I wasn't looking at the person. It was just one person back there. I'd say he's probably a little younger than me. So I was just sitting there and all of a sudden I hear the loudest scream I've ever heard in next gen. Oh, I'll bleep that out in my gym. And it caught me off guard. I've never heard anything like it. And I was closest to that person, and I was just like,
and yeah, even like the worker, there's a worker there, and they had to go back there and see what was going on. Like the whole gym was probably looking. I only looked like to the left, and a couple people were looking, but I'm guessing the whole gym was looking. Like I don't know. They're probably shocked, but I guess it's not that big of a deal. But it's just I don't really see it a lot. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
It was
I
really
mean,
loud. Like I didn't know. Like at first, I thought like maybe like someone like because they're in the squat rack area, so maybe they like fell or the weight fell on top of them. But yeah, I just didn't really know like what was going on. But
yeah, that kid, I think he is some crazy PR, but he was really excited. I had to let out a huge scream. It was fucking loud. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It was caught me off guard. I was just bumping my J. Cole. Shout out J. Cole. I was getting my zone, listening to J. Cole spit some wisdom.
like I've heard people grunt and stuff, but it's not like that loud. But I don't know. This it was like super loud. Like, I was listening to music too. I didn't really jump, but I can't imagine like being back there and just hearing that randomly. Like I was near that person earlier in the day too. And yes, thank God I wasn't back there because it would have been weird. Like
That's a fact.
I'm not someone who likes the attention like at a public place, so I don't know. I've never like screamed in the gym and I don't plan on doing it, but yes, it was weird, but whatever.
Yeah, so let's talk about the episode we're gonna film tomorrow with Nate Kreiter,
Yeah.
who was a former dodgeball player, won a gold medal with USA back in 2018, I believe.
We'll have to check the dates, but yeah,
Yeah,
he was captain. I'm not like a big dodgeball person, like I played in school and stuff, but yeah, it's pretty cool. We want to
yeah.
try to expand our sports and not just have the major like four sports like basketball, hockey, football, baseball. And he also has his own clothing line, so I think that's pretty cool. We'll definitely talk about that tomorrow.
All right, guys, we are gonna wrap things up. Me and John had a nice conversation just now, but roll the tape with actually no. First I gotta say something. So we're gonna have a co-host with us tomorrow, known as Skitty Von Stoddy. This is basically his trial episode. He's definitely gonna be fired. I'm gonna fire him probably the minute that episode with Nate is done. I just don't think it's gonna go well. No offense, Skitty. No offense.
Not gonna tell him, so the only way he'll find out is by watching
Yeah,
it.
if you're listening to this right now, Skitty, you're fired. But roll the tape with Nate. Enjoy the episode.
Good luck, Skitty.
All right, guys, we're here with Nate Kreiter right now. Nate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I
So
appreciate it.
you played on Team USA Dodgeball. You formerly did that, and now you have your own fashion company called Nate, and
Yes.
based in LA.
Yep, exactly.
We'll start with the dodgeball part right now.
Okay.
So, um, what got you into dodgeball? Was that like something you always enjoyed when you were younger in school? Because that was definitely one of my favorites in school when I was younger.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was like, I mean, I was a competitive kid. I played baseball my whole life. Basketball, football, that whole thing. And then obviously dodgeball was just gym class for a while, and then baseball became kind of the key thing. But when I moved to LA, I had a friend that I knew from Montana, where I'm from, that I grew up with, and she invited me out to like a random, adult dodgeball rec league. And I didn't know that was a thing, to be totally honest. And I went out there because she's like, "Oh, you play baseball, you probably be pretty good at this." And I was terrible. And then like the competitive side of me was really like hated that. So I was like, I'm not going to be bad at this sport. I've been good at most sports my whole life, and so so it kind of clicked, and I was like, all right. Then I kind of started taking it seriously. And then it just kind of started rolling from there.
It's kind of like a weird question, but have you ever domed someone right in the face before, or like been domed when you were playing dodgeball?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, I mean, it happens probably once a match. You put it on their face or get hit in the face. I don't get hit in the face all that often just because I usually have a ball in my hands. So I'm pretty. That's the first thing I want to avoid is get hit in the face, right? So, I've been pretty okay at avoiding those face shots, but it's inevitable. Someone's going to take it off the face, and it just kind of it's kind of an enjoyable thing as crappy as that sounds sometimes, but like seeing someone get hit in the face is just human nature. You're kind of like, oh, but I don't. That's always like makes clips in basketball or whatever. You know what I mean? Like any sport, people getting hit in the face. It's just kind of something people want to see.
Yeah. So I know how in middle school it always like would be a penalty if you hit someone in the face. Is that a thing when you're playing professionally or no?
So it depends on what ball type we're using and the rule set. So if it's like Team USA stuff, headshots are not penalized just because it's the highest level of the sport. And if you're playing the highest level, obviously you need to be okay with whatever happens, and your head is part of your body. So it definitely is not penalized. Now if you go rec leagues, like the more social sides, if some of them, if you throw a headshot, you're out. But most of them, the player just that gets hit isn't out, and you just kind of apologize and
Yeah.
kind of move on. But yeah, in the highest level, head's a part of the body, so those are definitely and they're not like encouraged. Like you're not like, oh, just hit everybody in the face. But sometimes if people go really low, it's strategic to kind of put it, where their face is going.
Hmm.
I know dodgeball used to get really competitive when we used to play in middle school or high school, and there used to be, like beef with your opponents. Have you experienced that, or like any big fights during a game or after a game?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's like rivalries, and there's, obviously like US and Canada, there's like an international rivalry there because, we're neighbors. But yeah, there's certain teams that, you get a rivalry with if you play them a lot in the finals, or they're like, East Coast, West Coast, like they're like the best East Coast team, we're the best West Coast team, or, internationally, like I said, with Canada, there's an extra bit of fire behind it because you want to beat them and you want to prove that you're the best, right? And then you have a player on that team that maybe is their team's version of you, right? Like their corner or their captain, and you kind of build a rivalry, or they're just someone that you just don't like. And so you kind of, it brings that extra fire out of you, and it gets a little bit louder, and you make a hit and you yell a little bit louder, or you catch them, and you glare a little bit longer across the court. It definitely, like at the highest level, gets really competitive because you're doing all this stuff because you want to win. So there's that little bit of push that kind of, like I said, brings that fire out of you.
Mhm.
Were there like any big fights, like punches thrown or anything? Like, was there anything that intense?
There's been like, I mean, there's been a couple slaps in the face, like like just kind of like dismissive slaps, and we've had to be like, a couple of us have been held back a few times, because there was things that happened that we didn't like or whatever. So you'd kind of charge the line a little bit, and then your teammates or the refs would kind of intervene or whatever. But it never has gotten to a point where it got super physical. at least that I've been a part of, where, like there was like an actual like fight, like a fist fight or anything like that. We try to compose ourselves a little. I mean, there's been close, but we try to keep as much composure as we can.
Yeah, I know dodgeball is competitive, and I didn't even know you could win, like represent your country and win a medal playing dodgeball. And I know you won a gold medal back in 2015.
Yeah, and 2019 actually, we got a gold in 2019 as well in Cancun. But yeah, there's the WDBF, which is like the World Dodgeball Federation, and then they host an event every year. And then this year, I think Canada's hosting the championships in I want to say August, but I'm not sure if that's correct. But yeah, so last year there was like 11 or 12 countries that went, or in 2019, obviously because the pandemic kind of threw everything off, so there hasn't been one since then. But yeah, there's tryouts, there's a combine, there's a training camp. It's pretty interesting and gets pretty serious, which is what I love about it, because if you're going to invest all this time in something, you want to be the best at it, because what else is the point, right?
Could you tell us a little bit about the strategy in professional dodgeball compared to middle school? I feel like everyone's really just trying to hit each other as hard as they can. And how is that different when you're playing professionally?
Yeah, so it's like chess, right? So you have certain pieces on the board and you have like certain positions that people play, right? So if you'll notice, like at the higher levels, like the two corners will always have balls, right? And they'll kind of dictate the pace of moving back and forth, right? So that's to protect the middle players, right? So like picture those as like, those are like your queens. Those are the ones that can make whatever move you want, right? Those are the ones that kind of dictate or whatever. And then the people in the middle are, you're just trying to protect them. But sometimes you'll sacrifice a middle player to get, one of their queens out or whatever. So it's just moves and counter moves, trying to take a piece off the board one at a time, because you want to, obviously, if you have pieces left at the end of the game, you win. So yeah, like in middle school, like it was just pick up ball, throw hard kind of thing, and the hardest throwers always won, because that's just kind of how it worked. Now it's accuracy, it's multi ball throws on players. It's if the player pushes up too hard, you can kind of attack that way. And yeah, you just use your strengths and hopefully take advantage of their weaknesses, and hopefully that outweighs them, and you win the game and win the match from there.
So when I was in middle school, I always tried to aim for that person's legs, because I feel like it would be impossible to get out unless they like kick it up and make an insane catch or something. Like, where did you try to aim when you threw the ball at someone?
It just depends. It depends on who I'm throwing at, and the situation of the game. So if it's someone that I know can't catch, I can kind of throw in this area because there's a chance of the ball coming back to me. So if I hit him here and it comes back, then you get another throw. But if it's someone that I know can catch, I won't put it anywhere close to their chest, because then obviously they'll catch you. If it's someone with a ball, you have to try to get around the ball, get around the blocker. And again, if like knowing your opponent, right? The opponent jumps, your opponent ducks, you kind of have to take that into account with every throw, and kind of go from there, and just kind of put it where, like, it's risk versus reward. So that's how I like to see it in my head. Like if the risk outweighs the reward, then it's not a place you can put that ball. But if the reward obviously is it's a higher probability than the risk, then that's when you make that throw.
And obviously there's different ways to throw the ball, to throw a curve ball or a sinker or something. What was your go-to throw that you knew would be deadly to an opponent?
I'm a pretty straight thrower, because I've always thrown pretty hard, and I've always been like, accuracy has kind of been my thing. So if I can put it in the right spot, I don't need to curve it. So because with the curve, like there's a chance of it being inaccurate, right? Like just the more motion you put on the ball, the less likely you can put it in the exact same spot each time, because there's more mechanics involved. So it's just like a straight throw, like a pitcher's fastball, right? They can put that in kind of wherever they want it to, right? But curveballs, sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. So with me, I was just kind of a straight ball thrower because I knew where it was going to go. So I would just kind of pick my point and try to hit it there.
Have you ever taken like a speed gun and seen how fast you throw?
There was like years back, people would do speed guns. And then I guess at the combine, they do like a speed test. And I think the fastest I threw was like 75 or 74. And then there were some dudes throwing 80s, which with a dodgeball is pretty fast.
Yeah.
it flies. It's pretty incredible. And like a lot of them are former, obviously like former baseball players, they're athletes, they're, you know, dudes that have been doing it, throwing, you know, things their whole lives. So it translates well to dodgeball once you kind of get the weight of the ball and kind of figure out the proper mechanics to get the same speed behind it.
So for like contending for a medal, did you guys have like training sessions that went on? What kind of
Yeah.
stuff went on there?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so we did like obviously the combine, right? And then then they pick the team from there. And because we're all over the country, it's kind of hard to, you know, get together a lot because obviously dodgeball isn't like the NFL where they'll pay you to do all these things, right? Like it's kind of on your own dime. So you got to kind of figure out logistically what makes sense for everybody and financially. So what we would do is we just do trainings, like all the people on the West Coast, like the LA people would do, like if they could get to, we do like once or twice a week, we do trainings. And then the East Coast people, we would just set up like schedules where, you know, this is what you would work out. This is the running, this is the cardio, whatever. And then we would do one weekend, like 2 months before the championship, where we all went to Texas and did like a 2-day like training camp where we set up drills, did scrimmages, did our plays, like ran our, you know, figured out our playbook, and got on the same page. And then the 2 months leading up, we would, you know, do Zoom calls, we would do, you know, group chats, all these things to kind of make sure everybody felt good and was on the same page. And then kind of go from there. Like it's hard to meet up more than that just because people have their regular lives, and it's not cheap to fly across the country, you know, to play dodgeball, especially when you're, you know, obviously not getting paid for it at this point.
This might be a tough one, but can you think of like the best moment you've had playing dodgeball? Maybe like an insane catch or like a nasty throw or something like that, like in the middle of a game.
Oh, like during a game, the best moment?
Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of a tough
shoot.
one.
That is a tough one. I mean, I think, 2015 when we were playing Malaysia, in the finals, I think the best moment was I hit someone and the whistle blew because time was out and we were up enough points to where we knew it was, we had the gold medal, and it was like this huge weight off your chest, right? Like, because they beat us earlier in the tournament and we've been battling, and you make one throw and you hit. And at that point you're like, okay, now it's impossible for them to beat us. And this just rush of whatever. And then you just kind of are like, oh my God, it happened and we're good. And you know, that's it. Cause it was like the first gold medal, cause the year before we lost the championship to Canada. And so we carried this like, you know, chip on our shoulder or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that was a pretty incredible moment. And then the UDC, like when we won our first UDC and we beat Canada in the championship and won 25 grand, that was also a pretty cool moment.
So we want to transition into your fashion brand right now
Okay.
called Nate and ask a few things about it.
Of course, yeah.
I went on the website and there's a lot of unique colors and designs that I've never seen before. And I like a lot of designs. Can you talk about what inspired you to, you know, make designs unique like that to stand out from any other clothing brand?
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much. That's the goal, is to be unique. And so I guess I mean, fashion, like there's so many fashion brands out there. There's so many, like, you know, why would anybody want to buy me over like a Gucci or a Louis Vuitton, right? These things have been around forever. So you have to do something that, you know, sets you apart, that, you know, besides like logos, right? Like fashion has become this like this logo competition now, where like if you see anything Louis Vuitton, it's just splashed everywhere, right? Like it's all over the place, or Gucci, just the G's everywhere, you know. And I wanted to do something where people could tell it was mine without my logo everywhere, because I'm not a big logo person. Like I'm not you know, I'm not going to put my Hourglass logo, like it's here and then that's it, right? But I wanted people to be like, oh, that's Nate, because of the styling of it, or the colors they used, or the contrast paneling, or, you know, whatever. So I had to figure out a way to make my brand unique and it stand out without screaming it in your face, basically. So that's kind of why I did that. And I'm a big contrast person. I think contrast is really beautiful, like black and white together, like black and white stripes, or, you know, like black and white check or whatever. It's just really striking. Like because you know, it's literally the darkest thing you can see against the lightest thing you can see. And so I think it's really, really beautiful to the eye. So I will like working with like really heavy contrast as well.
When you were a kid, were you really into fashion, or is this something that developed as you got older and you became more interested as you grew up?
Yeah, it honestly was it. I always thought it was interesting, and I always liked trying to dress nice. But I mean, born and raised in Montana. There's not really fashion there. You know, small town. Like I would try to like dress in Abercrombie, and you know, I was one of those kids that like thought he was fashionable, but wasn't at all. And it wasn't until I got to LA and like actually saw what real fashion was, and that it's like art, right? Because I just thought like I thought runway shows were dumb. I was like, no one's gonna wear this stuff. Like this is stupid. Like what is all? But once it clicked in my head that it's just art. It's just physical wearable art, right? Like you don't go to a museum and be like, oh, that painter, that's stupid, whatever. And maybe you do, but it's still art, right? And it's up for interpretation, and it's whoever, you know, it's not going to appeal to everybody, but it'll appeal to some people. And once I took it as that, as like, you know, it's art, then I got to, it opened my mind a little bit. And so then I just started drawing and realizing that like, shit, maybe I could do this, you know, and just kind of started slow with like, I was screen printing stuff on t-shirts and sweatshirts. And then it just kind of grew from there. And then I started doing like custom stuff, and then my own designs, and it kind of blossomed from that, and it kind of just took off from there.
So I think it's really cool what you do, like having your own business. That's something I really want to do when I'm older. Kind of from the classes I've learned and the research I've done, like everyone says it's tough and you shouldn't do it because you'll lose a lot of money. Do you think people are overreacting when they say that, or is it a lot easier than people think?
It's definitely not easy. And you definitely will. I mean, it does cost money to start a business, right? And especially if it's like anything like fashion, where you need to produce or create physical things before people buy them, right? Like if you're like a writer or whatever, you can write for free, right? You can paint almost for free. Like you just have to get the supplies and stuff. And but like with fashion, something physical like that, like making a sample is extremely expensive, and getting the fabric's expensive, and all that, and paying someone to like produce it is expensive, right? It's like everything in it is expensive. But I mean, people telling you don't do something, or if you listen to people that say don't all the time, you're not going to do anything like worth, you know, you're not going to be happy, because you're just going to do the norm or the standard. And again, I have all respect. My dad worked construction his whole life, right? But that's not something that I wanted to do. That wouldn't have made me happy. So I took a chance, and it's hard, and it costs a lot of money, and it's difficult, but I wouldn't choose any other thing, because it's the happiest. Like even if I lose money, like if I don't sell anything, or you know, one of my designs just flops and no one wants it or no one likes it or whatever, I still love it because it's me and I made it. You know what I mean? So there's that joy that you get with that. So what I'll say to you is if what you want to do, the business you want to start, is important enough to you to sacrifice a certain amount of money, sacrifice a certain amount of time, sleepless nights, you know, all that stuff does come with it. But that's the same as if you want to be the best at anything you do, right? Like with Dodgeball, for example, like the training, you know, you sacrifice a lot for that to become the best at that, right? So why would business be any different, you know? And especially like a creative business, or, you know, I mean, any business whatsoever, like Apple computers, like that, they were told to shut down and they were told to stop, and Steve Jobs was told he was crazy, and maybe he was a little crazy, but like then he built the biggest company in the history of the world. You know, it's really difficult to do anything that has value. But if you're strong enough and you have enough passion and you have enough drive, you'll get there. Just if you just don't, and it sounds so cliche, but just don't give up. Like I should have stopped this years and years ago, when I was losing so much money because I just kept making things that no one was buying. And and it, you know, people were like, oh, you know, I had to take out a loan and borrow money from my mom and borrow money from my brother, and I was like, you know, I'll pay you back, I promise. I just need to get these designs out and whatever. And it became a thing where it stopped being about the money, because I just loved doing it so much. And it was a nice place to get to, where it was like, I'm just going to do it my way, and, you know, to hell with everybody else.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to start their own brand, but they're scared of failure. Were you that type of person when you first started?
When I first started, yes, I was because I had the wrong motives, I think. Like, and I think I looked at it that way where it was, if you're scared of failing, like you're not going to allow yourself to do anything really interesting because like the crazy stuff oftentimes fails because people aren't ready for it. Right. And even with fashion, like there's really interesting fashion brands that failed because they were scared of failing. Right. And they didn't just like let themselves go. So they took the careful steps and maybe they lasted a little bit longer than they would have normally, but they didn't skyrocket because they didn't take the chances they needed to. And in any business that's that competitive, you need to set yourself apart, right? So it was something where initially I was scared of failing and I was just kind of like doing the safe things and doing like hoodies and t-shirts and tank tops and these things that like everybody buys, like everybody wears t-shirts. So that's an easy thing to do. Right. But then I wasn't enjoying it. And I was just like, oh, this sucks. Like, this isn't what I wanted to do with fashion. But once I got over the being scared to fail and just like, this is just me, I'm going to give this my all and make whatever I want because it's for me at the end of the day. Like, yeah, if I make a t-shirt that I hate and 1,000 people buy it, cool. But like, I hate it. Or if I make something I truly love and only 100 people buy it, I would do that 100% of the time because that's, it's at the end of the day, it's your happiness, right? Like no one else cares about my designs as much as I do. So you have to put yourself first at some point and just do what you believe to be the best choice for yourself.
And obviously it's a lot of hard work to, be successful in that industry. And, we all have these days where we just want to sit back and do nothing basically. But how did you overcome those days where you just wanted to be lazy if you had those days?
Yeah, I still have those days. Like that's a thing that I think we need to be more okay with having those days and not like fighting them. Cause like I have those days still and I had them, in really important parts of the company and certain design days and but you have to allow yourself a couple of those days or you're just going to go crazy. Right. So, but on the days that I like early on in Nate, when I was feeling like that, I would just get back to what I liked about the design work. Right. So like, I don't love the business side of fashion. I'm not like, I don't like the marketing. I don't like the advertising. I don't like any of that. I like the artistic side. That's kind of my bread and butter. So when I would get bogged down or get heavy with that kind of stuff, I would just grab my iPad and draw, and I would just sit and draw because that would alleviate a lot of tension and a lot of stress. And then once you kind of clear your mind of that, then you can focus on little tasks that you have to do that you don't want to do. So you just do a little bit at a time and just be easy on yourself is what I'll say. Because it is a long road. And if you let one bump in the road knock you off course, then you're never going to get to where you need to go. So just being easy on like, cause we all have those days we wake up and we feel like crap. And we're like, I don't want to do anything today. Like, that's a totally normal feeling to have. And if you don't beat yourself up and you're like, okay, just let's just draw today. Like, let's just sit and draw, cause during the pandemic, it was really difficult because, you're trapped in your house. Right. Cause obviously like being in LA, like we were really locked down because the cases hit us so badly that we couldn't do anything. So I was just stuck here. And there was days where I woke up and I'm like, God, I don't want to do anything. Like I'm so just over all of this. I would put on like a movie I liked and sit and draw. And I would draw pieces from the movie that I thought were interesting. And so I would draw the jacket. Like I would watch The Matrix because I think The Matrix is super dope. But I would draw like Neo's jacket. And I'm like, that's a cool jacket. And then I'm like, how could I make that my jacket? And then I would, kind of change up the design and get fabrics and whatever. And I would come up with designs from there. And it once you get in a good place, like a good rhythm, everything seems to open itself up. And then everything comes a little bit easier because you took the first few steps of doing something and you took the easy steps first. And you weren't beating yourself up for being like, I need to be, or I feel like being lazy today and doing like, no, you have to do this. You got to do this. And because if you keep doing that, you're going to just drive yourself into a wall at some point and not do anything at all.
I think it's really cool how you're taking inspiration from things you see and changing them to become something that's yours. Do you have any pieces that you're selling right now that are like that you may have seen in a movie and you've changed them to be something that is yours?
Yeah. I'm working on something right now. It's not out yet. And I would, well, one thing that I have now, it's called the Calvin. It's like this really oversized button up. And it's called the Calvin because Snoop Dogg's real name is Calvin. And I was watching Snoop Dogg music videos one day, and I saw him wearing this like really oversized button up on top of like a building. And he was like, it was like that shot, like this random shot where he's just like dancing. Like, I think it was like a doggy style or one of those or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. So I took a screenshot of the button up he was wearing and designed the Calvin based on that button up. And so that was something that I really liked. So I named it after Snoop Dogg. And then I'm working on a pair of pants right now that are inspired by Catwoman's suit in Batman Returns, the one with like Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito as a penguin. Have you guys seen that one?
I haven't.
No? Okay. So it's like the second Batman, but Tim Burton did it. So it's like the 80s, early 90s. It's really good if you guys like Batman stuff. It's one of the good Batmans. But Michelle Pfeiffer has this outfit when she becomes Catwoman that she like cuts up and stitches back together with like bright white stitching. So I saw that and I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm making a pair of pants that look like they were cut apart and stitched with like big white stitches. So that hopefully will come out later this year, I think.
So I guess this kind of depends on the piece of clothing that you make, but let's say you make a plan, like how long would it actually take before it's out on the market?
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it does kind of depend on the clothing, and it also depends on the season, right? So like it's hard to create, and I'm not someone that does like fall, winter, spring, summer drops because I don't have a store that I have to fill, so I can do whatever I want, because I don't rely on anybody else. So I can just come out with like 5 pieces tomorrow if I really wanted to. So I do like smaller kind of collections, but you don't want to come out with like a trench coat in June because it just doesn't really make sense, because no one's going to be wearing that. But yeah, so theoretically I could create something. It would take probably a month to develop it and get a sample and then take photos of it. 2-3 months is probably normal turnaround. But things that I have now that I'm coming out with, I've had for 8-9 months, a year sometimes, just because it also depends on what other pieces I have to drop with it, because I want the collection to be like to work with each other. So you don't want to drop like a puffy winter coat with short shorts and a crop top, because it just kind of doesn't work. They don't go well together, and then you don't really buy multiple pieces from the collection because it looks scattered. But I typically plan my drops 6 months before they happen, so I know kind of what I'm coming out with, how many pieces, how it goes well together, and then I'll take the photos as soon as I can, so then I can kind of edit the photos and take different ones that I need to, or kind of change locations if it didn't work with the photos that I was taking. Obviously with COVID, like that kind of changed everything, and it made me rethink kind of everything that I was doing in the best way. Like it really like opened my eyes, because there was times in COVID where I was like, should I shut down? Like, do I need to do this? Should I just go work for another company so I don't have to have all the stress of like doing my own stuff? But yeah, so it kind of just depends. But I'm kind of on my own timeline. So I'm making a pair of pants now that I'm actually picking up today. That's the fitting that I'm going to after this call. And I'll probably release those in like 2-3 months. Those will be a really quick turnaround because they're going to be really cool, like summer pants. So that'll actually probably be my quickest thing that I've fitted and turned around.
What's been your favorite drop in your fashion career so far?
Ooh, I like that question. The latest one, the drop 6, has been my favorite one, just because it was the most interesting things that I've come out with so far, and it was the longest build up to it, because it took me forever to get a few of those pieces right, and it was like just logistical things that were happening, and they were really complicated pieces, so it was a lot of fittings and a lot of like adjustments and a lot of things. So yeah, the latest one is my favorite. Like the one, like this is one of my favorite things, because it's just I just thought it was so cool. Yeah. So, and then, but like, obviously, like I say that now, and then, in 4 months, it'll probably be that collection, cause you always like what you just came out with because you're so excited about it. So it's just kind of, like as an artist, the favorite thing you make is the next thing you make. Right. Um, so I'm going to go to this fitting today and be like, oh, these are my favorite pants ever, cause that's just kind of how it works. It's something new and it's exciting. And you created something from your mind that is now physically in the world, which is probably the coolest part of fashion, I think.
So your dad played a huge role in your life. So can you talk to us about like the impact he had, not only in your life but in your business as well?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, he was my dad. He was my hero, right? And he was a great dad. He was also an athlete, a sports guy. So like, he was huge with like keeping me motivated and trying to be the best, right? Like he was always like had to be the best at everything he did. And so obviously that rubbed off on me, where it was like, if you're gonna do something, do it to the best of your ability. It doesn't matter if it's schoolwork, a job, a sport, a career, whatever. Like whatever you decide to do that you're going to spend your time on, because time is so important, be the best at it. Because what's the point of doing it if you're not going to try to be the best at it? And so he really motivated me that way. And him starting his own construction business when he was young, and I'm watching him go through the bad times and the good times, and was inspiring, because I knew that I had the strength to do it. I just didn't know if I could access that strength. You know what I mean? Like, because you see it in your dad, you see it in the person that raised you, and you're like, okay, well, he can do it. Like, I know it's somewhere in me because he's a part of me. But how do you turn it on? How do you access it, right? And so that was kind of a thing that I was struggling with, and then calling on him and asking him questions and whatever. And then when he passed, it became this thing where I had all those lessons in me, and I had the words that he gave me, I had the lessons, I had the love. But now I need to do it for him, and I need to do it in his memory, because if I don't go forward with this, because he was the one that he built my screen press for me out of just wood and drove it down from Montana. Like, he really like helped me build this business from little pieces of wood, right? And so if I didn't give it my all, if I didn't like push and do everything in my power to make it a success, then it felt like I was not doing him justice. What the tools that he gave me, the way he raised me, like I feel like I would just be like, not honoring his memory in the way that I felt I needed to. So that's why I try so hard and why I push so hard. And with dodgeball, like the last time I saw him was 2015 Worlds, the gold medal match, like after like the after party. And so with all of that too, like it was, with 2019, I was like, I got to win this for him. And with the business, it's like everything that I do in the business is to make him proud, right? And to like do and make myself proud, because it was always like, you can only rely on yourself, right? You got to do everything yourself. No one's going to do anything for you. Make it happen. So yeah, that's why he inspired me. Just every day that he lived was like he worked hard, and so I try to do the same.
It's awesome to hear that you're doing it for your dad, and I know you're making him proud.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I think we'll finish with this. We don't want to keep you too long. So what's the best piece of advice you could give to someone who wants to be like you and start their own business?
Yeah. Just, I mean, work hard, obviously, but just have faith in yourself, right? Like, just, if you want to do it, if that's something you really want to do, and people will try to talk you out of it your whole life. People will be like, no, don't do that. It's too tough, or there's too many people that do that, right? Like with fashion, with me personally, like it was like, everybody has a fashion brand. There's so many fashion brands out there. Like, why would you want to do that? It's so competitive. Everything is competitive if it matters, right? Everything is, right? The most important things in the world are competitive because people want to do them, because they're important and they matter. So it's just, don't listen to any outside voices. Just listen to yourself, right? If you really want to do it, and you do, and you're like, this is what I want to do, and there's no doubts in your mind, just do it. You'll find a way to do it. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, right? Make small steps first, right? Because if you try to jump to the finish line, you're going to fail, because there's no, you didn't build the work up to get there, right? So I guess, yeah. So sorry, that turned into a really long answer, but the piece of advice I would give is just believe in yourself, right? Which is so cliche to say, like, because you always hear that, believe in yourself, but like it takes a deeper belief in yourself to not listen to anyone else in the world, right? Like, because if you, like in sports, right, you have a team and the teammates believe in you, right? You believe in yourself, but the teammates are also pushing you. If you're starting a business by yourself and you're doing something, no one is pushing, no one's behind you. You're alone. You are totally alone on an island. So you have to believe in yourself with unequivocally 100%, because if you're like, I give up, no one's going to say, no, don't give up. We're supporting you. They'll just go, yeah, okay, cool. Because they don't care. It's just you. So you have to believe and trust yourself, or else you will fail, because no one's there to care whether you fail or not. They're just going to go, okay, cool. Come try this now, or come work for me, or come, do this other job or whatever. So you just have to, and you have to be ready to like be in solitude, right? Like mentally and physically sometimes, because again, if you're starting it by yourself, only you are going to do it, and only you can push you, because no one knows what you're going through. No one knows what you're trying to do, because it's just here, right? And here. So again, just believe in yourself and don't worry about anything else.